Thank you, Henry. It's now my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce you to somebody whom I find a delight. He is charming, he is empathetic, but he is strong on the issues, and he's passionate about closing the racial and ethnic wealth gap. Congressman G.K. Butterfield, and that stands for George Kenneth, has represented North Carolina's 1st Congressional District in the state's northeastern corridor since 2004. He is, in the Congress, he holds leadership roles as the Chief Deputy Whip of the House Democratic Caucus and as the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. He also serves as a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, and he sits on its Health, Communications and Technology and Commerce, Manufacturing and Trade subcommittees. And prior to joining Congress, Congressman Butterfield was President Superior Court Judge for the 1st Judicial Division in North Carolina, where he, of course, also was appointed to the North Carolina Supreme Court and served for 2 years, authoring over 15 opinions on cases involving judicial sentencing procedures, eminent domain, and capital punishment. Please give me a warm round of applause to Chairman G.K. Butterfield.
Thank you and good morning. Let me begin by thanking you, Dr. Rocky Moore, for your passion and for your leadership and your tenacity and your willingness to work together with other groups to bring together such a session as we are having this morning. And so thank you very much for your leadership. To Henry Ramos and to the other stakeholders who made today possible. It's good to see all of you, and thank you for your extraordinary work. I'm down on the program this morning to bring a welcome, and so I'm going to say welcome. But I have some other remarks that I would certainly like to make this morning, and I'm going to make these same remarks on the House floor in just a few minutes. The Congressional Black Caucus has secured 40 minutes this morning on the House floor, and we're going to be talking generally about Baltimore, but specifically about poverty in America. And so this is just a warm-up to what I plan to do in just a few minutes on the House floor. I stood in this very spot, yes, this very spot, about 100 days ago, and took the oath of office as the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus. In that speech, I made a very provocative statement, and I continue to repeat it every chance that I have. Black America is in a state of emergency. There's no other way to explain it. We see it every day. What we are seeing in Baltimore is not, ladies and gentlemen, only about police misconduct, and certainly it is, but it's also about the question of pervasive poverty in America. It's about unemployment, it's about lack of opportunity, hopelessness, and despair. And so go home this evening and tell your friends and colleagues that Baltimore is simply a byproduct of a greater problem in America called persistent chronic poverty. The economic climate, ladies and gentlemen, in Black America and the divide that has persisted for generations is due to our country's history, our country's unfortunate history of racial segregation and economic exclusion. While much of the country has experienced an economic recovery over the last 6 years, it has not reached every community. There is still work that remains to be done. Nowhere is that more evident than in African-American communities all across the country. Dr. Rocky Moore is correct. We had a great migration in this country from 1910 until 1970. I am from the South, and so I know this quite well. I remember it. I experienced it. When our students in high school in the South graduated from high school on a Monday night, on Tuesday morning, literally on Tuesday morning, hundreds, if not thousands, of black teenagers headed north. They came to Washington and Baltimore and Philadelphia and Newark and New York City. And they came there looking for opportunity, and they found opportunity because of the manufacturing opportunities that existed in these cities. But as the years went on, this manufacturing sector has now disappeared to some extent and being replaced by automation. African Americans are struggling And that's why this session today is so important. We continue to face high rates of persistent poverty. 384 counties in the United States of America have been designated by the Census Bureau as persistent poverty counties. That means that they've had poverty rates in excess of 20%, not since the recession started, but over the last 30 years. It's called persistent poverty, and it is real. I want you to consider these few statistics that I have pulled today to recite to you. The median income of African-American households is $34,000, $24,000 less than the median income of white households of $58,000. The median net worth of white households is 13 times the level for black households. Black Americans are three times more likely to live in poverty. At 10.1%, the current unemployment rate for African Americans is double the rate for white Americans. And in West Baltimore and the south side of Chicago and other communities all across the country, it is approaching 50%. Black Americans currently face an unemployment rate higher than the national unemployment rate. According to the Center for Global Policy Solutions, black Americans are 3 times less likely to even have a bank account. 44% of black Americans own a home, compared to 74% for white Americans. America is not working for many African Americans, and we, as the Congressional Black Caucus, we as members of Congress, have an obligation, not just to come to you on a bright Thursday morning and make a speech, but we have an obligation to fight harder and smarter to help repair the damage, and that is what the Congressional Black Caucus is doing. That's why we secured this time on the floor today. They told us we could have an hour tonight or 40 minutes this morning. We said we will take 40 minutes this morning because we are ready to fight this fight. This is an opportunity for advocates and researchers and think tanks and policymakers, community partners who collectively are the nation's authorities on wealth building in disadvantaged communities to come together. We must all come together to develop innovative policies that address these disparities, especially with regards to criminal justice and home ownership. I see Self-Help Credit Union is here today for Center for Responsible Lending in Durham, North Carolina. Big deal. Retirement security and financial access and protection. It's time for real solutions. I will close because I don't think I have time to read the whole thing, but last night I went on the internet and pulled the State of the Union speech. President Lyndon B. Johnson, just 6 weeks after President Kennedy was killed and he became president. Listen to this bold language, and I'll just pick out a couple of paragraphs. Unfortunately, he said, many Americans live on the outskirts of hope, some because of their poverty, some because of their color, and all too many because of both. Our task is to help replace their despair with opportunity. This administration, today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America. I urge this Congress and all Americans to join with me in that effort. And there's much more to the speech, and I urge you to take a look at it. Thank you very much for coming today. We have work to do. Thank you so very much.